Cell, the basic unit of life. If we see the planet Earth, there are so many different kinds of organisms living together. So all these organisms are coexisting, living together and interacting with each other. We see a great diversity in this animal and plant kingdom. So on this earth, we know that huge plants like giant redwood tree, giant sequoia tree, and even we see pine trees, such a huge and big trees. And at the same time, we observe very tiny phytoplankton, means small plants that live in water. So we can see the variations, differences in their size and shape, but even though they are all plants and perform photosynthesis and have same basic functions. And even if you see the animals, we see huge creatures like a small microorganism or a small zooplankton, very small animalcules in the water, and we see the very big animal, that is the blue whale, living in the same water. We see huge land animals like elephants, giraffes, and different animals. So there is a huge variety of living things living on this planet. So some long ago, some 350 years ago, when the microscopes were not discovered, people only knew about the animals that are seen to eyes. So whatever the animals and plants that they were able to see with their naked eyes, so they considered only those were the living things existing on the planet. But later, by the discovery of microscopes, people came to know about the living world that is existing along with them, which is not visible to the naked eye. So there were some great scientists who made the possibility of identifying these microscopic organisms by their special instruments called microscopes. Now let us see the names of some people who made contributions to find out the microorganisms or the microbial world. So here is a list of few scientists who made their contributions in observing the microbial world with the help of microscopes. So they were the Ethan C.S. Kircher and Jan Swammerdam, Anthony van Leeuwenhoek and Robert Hooke. So among these four, you might have heard the names Anthony van Leeuwenhoek and Robert Hooke, who were very famous for their observations of microorganisms with their powerful handmade microscopes. Anthony van Leeuwenhoek, he observed so many living things and living cells with his microscope. Of course, he was the first human to see the living cells under a microscope. He made different powered lenses, hand-grown lenses, and he used the lenses in his microscope to observe the living cells, to observe the blood, protozoa, yeast, and bacteria and other organisms under his microscope. Even he observed the water from different sources like pond water to study the life in them. He observed so many living and non-living objects also, which are very small and not seen to a naked eye under his powerful microscopes, and he made recording of his observations. We learned that cell perform different functions. We also learned that every living organism is made up of a basic unit called as cell. So the cell, it performs different processes, life processes like respiration and excretion. Different kinds of life activities are performed by a cell. But how do we study the cell? How do we study the structures of a cell? How can we observe it? To study a cell or a single-celled organism, microorganism, we need some equipment. So that is nothing but a microscope. So microscope is a device which is fitted with glass lenses which will enable us to magnify the tiny things like microorganisms or cells of plants and animals. So by that we can observe the internal structure of the cells. We can study different parts of a cell with the help of microscope. So in this lesson, we're going to study the parts of a microscope, how to use a microscope, and at the same time, to observe the cells of plant or animal, we need to prepare a mount, a slide of that plant or animal cells. So in this chapter, we'll learn how to prepare a slide of a plant tissue or plant cells or animal cells, and how to make it ready to observe under the microscope. Now, let us see the discovery of cell, how it was done. So the discovery of cell, it was done by Robert Hooke in the year 1665. Robert Hooke, he observed the cork cells, that is the cork is the dead stem of a plant, oak plant, that he collected the cork and he made a thin slice of the cork and observed under his handmade microscope. So he himself prepared a microscope which he used to observe the cork cells. Cork cells. So this term was not there before his discovery. Just he has taken the specimen, a small bit of the cork, and observed. Later he named that cavities as cells. So what he observed, this is the Hooke's microscope, which he used to observe. So let us see different parts of Hooke's microscope. This is the barrel and this is the eyepiece, and this is the fine tuning or tuning screw, and this is the objective, and this is the light source. Here is the oil lamp to produce light, and here is the water flask to focus the light, and here is a glass through which the light is focused onto the specimen holder. Specimen means the thing which he is observing, that is the specimen. So the specimen, the cork is placed here, and this is the specimen holder. So this is the microscope prepared by Robert Hooke. He himself made this microscope to observe the cork cells. So what was his observation? When he observed the cork, he found some kind of structures like this. So these things were similar to